Welcome back to Breakfast of Champions. We're on our series Finding Joy at Work. We're on part 4 right now, and today we want to explore the idea of finding the right fit. Now in part 1, we talked about how either work gives us dignity or we give dignity to work, and we explored how both the attitudes bring us down different paths. And I challenge all of us to really consider that perhaps the right view is that we add dignity to work. That whatever it is that needs to be done, right, we give it our best, giving dignity to it because we already have dignity and we don't get dignity from our work. Now, I'm going to step back a little bit and say at the same time, yes, while we should be responsible and do whatever's in front of us, whatever's put in our hands, do it with the best attitude possible, it is important to find the right fit, right, in our jobs in order to find joy at work. Now, someone who is not good at something, right, can learn to get better at it. But there are some of us that are born with certain strengths and with different weaknesses, and some of us are born with different strengths with other weaknesses. That's the reality of life. And if we force somebody who doesn't have a strength to have that strength to do something, that person is going to struggle at it. He can have the great attitude and work hard at it and eventually maybe get better at it, but he's not going to do as well as someone who has that strength and has a great attitude. So we're not doing this person a favor, right, by not putting him into the right fit. So good managers want to find the right fit for everybody on the team. Good managers want to bring out the best in their people. And how do we find this right fit? We're going to look at 3 areas today that's going to help us in finding the right fit for each person. Now, in a very good book by Jim Collins called Good to Great, right? It's available in Vietnamese. It's a recommended read. He studies some of the top companies in the last 150 years and how they perform. And a lot of it came down to leadership and habits. Right? And one of the things that he concluded was that great companies who in the last 100 over years have figured out how to make these 3 things work for them. Right? He calls it the hedgehog principle, but it works just the same for us individuals as well. First there's the issue of strengths, and then there is the issue of passion, and then there is the what he calls the economic engine, which is making money from this too. So strength is what you're good at, you're really good at, and passion is this desire you have to, whether it's to solve a certain problem in society, in the marketplace, or you just have this passion to do this thing, this job, this area of work. You want to get so good at it, it gives you a lot of joy and satisfaction, and so passion is good, right? But again, we mentioned in one of the previous episodes, passion has to be balanced with wisdom if it's going to be long-term. Passion alone dies out very easily. So strengths and passion, what he realized was that the great companies compared to the good companies was that the good companies only could figure out 1 or 2 of these circles. That means they knew their strengths, or they knew how to make money from their strengths, which is what this economic engine is all about. Or they knew their passions and they knew how to make money from passions, or they knew this but they didn't know how to profit from it, right? So good companies could only figure out 1 or 2 of these circles, but great companies figure out all 3 of them. They knew what they were good at, they knew what they were greatly passionate about, they were driven to be the best they could be in that area, and then they knew how to profit from that. And I'm going to take this and really say this is how we're going to apply it for our lives. If we want to find joy in our work, in our careers, we're going to need to figure out how can we find this overlapping circle. This is where joy is, because this is where we're going to excel in our jobs, wherever that may be, right? And as managers, as team leaders, it is important we help our team members to figure out how they fit into the team, right? We need to try to understand them, help them to figure out what are really their strengths, what are really their passions. And then they will naturally begin to find out how can they really find the right fit. And in that right fit, they're going to also excel in that role, and they're going to have a very rewarding career, and it's also going to be financially rewarding, I believe. Now, how do we figure out our strengths? Let's discuss about that in our teams today, right? How do we know what are we truly strong in? Right? I know this is a tough question for a lot of us. How do we know that? Well, one, by experimentation. Right? Let me give you a few ideas. Experimentation, try something. Right? Now, don't just try blindly. Make sure you do some thinking before you try it. Don't just do it blindly. But experimentation is the key to finding what really works and what doesn't. So experiment with different things. Right? Once you've done several projects, look back, reflect on it, and evaluate them. Right? Talk to your manager, talk to your colleagues, and ask for their feedback. Say, hey, look, was I good in this project? Was I good in that project? Why? Why did I do well in this project, and why did I struggle in this project? Could it be because of my strengths and weaknesses? Take time to evaluate those things, experimentation. Secondly, it could be developing more self-awareness. And how do you do that? Well, by learning, by training, by having discussions like these that we're having, right? That will develop more self-awareness of where we are. Just thinking about these things helps us to understand what are our strengths and weaknesses. Now, part of self-awareness could be taking some kind of self-assessment tests. Right? There are many of them out there to analyze our personalities, our different ways of leadership, things like that. There are many of them out there, and it doesn't hurt to really go and take some of them, because a lot of them come from different angles and helps you to understand your strengths better again. So if you have the time and the resources, and I encourage it, right, maybe even better if you do it as a team, right? Go find some good recommended tests out there, do it together as a team and discuss about it together, and maybe agree and disagree about it. You know, sometimes the test may not be accurate. You can spot that and discuss that. Sometimes it could be very accurate, and talk about how can we learn from that and apply that into, make some changes into our team. So it's important that we understand one another's strengths, and I think it's important that we put the right people into the right fit, right? Finding the right fit. Someone who is miserable in his role is not going to be joyful, and if he's not joyful, he's not going to excel in that job. Sometimes we may see that as, oh, that person is just lazy or unwilling. Sometimes it could really just be they are not in the right fit. And that's why we need regular meetings to talk about these things. And sometimes we need individual meetings too, to just sit down and say, hey, are you in the right fit? If you're not in the right fit, tell me why. How can we change that within the team? How can we find the right fit for you on the team? And sometimes the conversation does get difficult, that sometimes the person isn't meant to be on the team. And I don't think this has to do with strength. Sometimes it could be because they are not fitting in the team culture. And if we want to build winning teams, we sometimes have to make that very strong, painful decision to say, hey, look, maybe you're not meant to be here. There's a better team for you out there for you, and you have to leave or go to a different team. How do we figure out our passions? Right? What are we truly passionate about in our work? And how can we bring that together? Everybody may have slightly different passions in the work, but I think a good manager has to learn how can we put that on the table and bring that together. How can we unify that? Right? Are we passionate to be a winning team together? Are we passionate to give better service to other people together? Are we passionate to win as a team? Right? I think those are the things that needs to be figured out. And again, how can we do that? Well, by rich communication. Not just communication, but rich communication. That means we got to talk it out. Right? We got to throw ideas on the table. We got to debate it out. We got to agree, and we sometimes got to make a strong case for our points. But I think it's important that we have these weekly meetings. Some people think that it's unproductive to have weekly meetings, but I really think that great teams know how to have weekly meetings, not just to talk about results and the work and solving problems, but weekly meetings sometimes just to have rich communication so that we can make sure that we are aligned on our passions, right? That we are aligned on one thing, the same thing together. And I think that's important. So having weekly meetings, I think, is a good start. It's a very good start to communicating, not just to talk about getting work done, but also to make sure that we have strong relationships together. Success is both results and relationships, and that's key. So, one of the ways you can start by figuring out what are your passions is to begin to talk about them. Sometimes you may need to have some time off together, right? Go out together, maybe go for a fishing trip or go somewhere together on a weekend with your families, just to spend time together and to again talk about these things. What are the passions? Right? Sometimes it helps to step back from the work a little bit and to ask ourselves, hey, where do we see our team in another couple of years, right? Is this just a short-term thing, or is it going to be, do we want to build something together? We want to build something long-term and be the best team in the company, right? These things need figuring out, and when we can help our members, our team members to figure out their passions, we're doing them a big favor. We're helping them to move towards that circle right there and to have more joy for their work. So a lot of coaching is needed, a lot of individual conversations is needed, and I think the manager needs to realize how important that is. Okay? So finding the right fit makes a huge difference, and when we do that, the team begins to do very well, I believe, and to excel in their work, and therefore to have high performance and bring greater results for their company. So this week, have some time together and talk and discuss in your team. What are one another's strengths? What do you think are our strengths, individually and as a team? What do you think is our passion, individually and as a team? And how can we find greater alignment to find greater joy at work? Enjoy. Bye-bye.